I want to congratulate all the men out there who are working diligently to be good fathers, whether they're stepfathers or biological fathers or just spiritual fathers. And we here at the Jamaica Information Service join Bishop Jakes in saluting the fathers of our nation, those strong and loving fathers who have molded their children and made invaluable contributions to this nation. Hello and welcome to another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I am Adrian Atkinson. On the show today, news on the positive developments in the economy. The head of the Planning Institute of Jamaica sits down with Ian Boyne to share the good news. Also, a road safety reminder for all motorists. We'll zoom in on where the rubber meets the road. It's going to be a full package of useful information and news you can use. So don't move a muscle.
Back when I was a child, before life removed all the innocence, my father would lift me high and dance with my mother and me, and then spin me around till I fell asleep. Then up the stairs he would carry me, and I knew for sure I was loved. If I could get another chance, another walk, another dance with him.
The Jamaica Logistics Hub.
The Jamaica Logistics Hub.
The Jamaica Logistics Hub. A topical subject on the minds of many Jamaicans. What exactly is the Jamaica Logistics Hub initiative?
Logistics is the process by which businesses manage the flow of goods, services, people, information, energy, and other resources through the entire supply chain from source to end users.
The various components of the hub will allow Jamaica to capitalize on the increased trade expected to flow through the region when the Panama Canal expansion is completed in 2016.
We are not saying by that that all of the project would have been finished. We are saying that there is a core set of projects and programs that must be implemented.
The Jamaica Logistics Hub, a plan in action to increase trade and grow the economy.
By now, you've probably heard that the head of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde, is coming to Jamaica later this month. It's seen as yet another signal of the fund's confidence in our economy and the government's strides to push the country further on a growth path. More positive steps were taken along that path in the first quarter of the financial year. We get details now from the Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Colin Bullock.
Thanks for joining us for Issues and Answers. I'm Ian Boyne. We're talking the economy again, and we have with us the Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Mr. Colin Bullock. The PIOJ recently gave its quarterly review, and we talked to Mr. Bullock about this review and about the trends in the economy. We thank you so much for your company on Issues and Answers. So Bullock, always good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
So the trends, the indicators are moving in the right direction in terms of the economy?
I would say so. I mean, we have had several quarters of positive growth. And
4 quarters now, right?
Yes, and we ended with growth of about just under 1% for the last year, which on the surface it appears modest, but it's actually slightly higher than what we had anticipated in the program in the first place. So it is modest, but things are happening as expected, and they are moving in the right direction. Yes. There are some clear sectors which have been doing well. I mean, agriculture has been doing very well, mining and quarrying, construction, and I think generally the hotels and restaurant sector, which relates to tourism, it has been doing well. The figures for last year there might appear to be modest, but that's because of an accident of timing. In other words, Last year, spring break fell in March, so we had heavy numbers in March. This year, spring break fell in April, so the numbers in March this year and so on were less. But generally, we would have seen a stronger April, and that sector continues to do well.
But what's happening, Mr. Bullock, with manufacturing? It's been the laggard for so many years, over different administrations. What's the problem with manufacturing?
A lot of manufacturing is manufacturing for a domestic market, and that domestic market has been heavily constrained by the adjustment program, depreciation, prices, wage freezes in the public sector, and so on. So if you're producing mainly for a local market, you will find that your capacity to expand is limited. I think also that there have been some growth sectors, take tourism for instance, that we historically have not done enough to build effective linkages between manufacturing and agriculture with those growth sectors.
But there's been talk about this for a long time, a recognition that there needs to be greater linkages.
Well, I understand from the Ministry of Tourism that there's a sort of linkages council which is looking at linkages for agriculture and agriculture and manufacturing with tourism. I mean, so that is ongoing, where you have to look at, from both points of view, quality standards in agriculture and manufacturing, meeting the specifications, regularity of supply, and all of those things have to be worked out to ensure that the tourism interests can in fact rely on ongoing supplies from those sectors.
Why generally would you say is our economic reform program the way to go? It's painful to many people, but why would you say this pain is necessary if we are going to get ourselves to the point of sustainable growth?
A lot of the pain comes from the perspective of fiscal adjustment. That we've been living beyond our means for years. We have been borrowing money and not using it productively. And if you look back to where we were a year ago, we were cut off by the international development partners. We weren't getting any funding from the EU or IDB or IMF or anybody else. We were heavily indebted. The reserves the net international reserves had fallen from over 2 billion to about 800 and something million. And if that continued, if we had continued as on, we would have been in a situation, we would have run out of reserves and would have found ourselves in a situation not being able to meet our international obligations. So when we reflect on what is happening now, we have got to reflect on what would have happened if we didn't enter this adjustment program. So essentially, I mean, to try to put it simply, you're in a situation where you've been living beyond your means, and you're going to have to work hard and earn more. But right before that comes in, you're going to have to tighten your belt to ensure that you're in a situation where you can actually service your international obligations. So the pain is inevitable, but the pain of the fiscal adjustment, what that promises is that downstream, and we note that in the last fiscal year, the fiscal deficit had been eliminated altogether, and
after 18 years,
that's right,
of running fiscal deficits,
we had a small surplus, and at this year the balance should be close to zero, maybe a small deficit. But that adjustment is necessary, and if we continue with that adjustment, you're going to get the public finances in a situation in the not too distant future in a position where it can more easily afford the basic necessities in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of security, in terms of the economic infrastructure, that we have got to get ourselves out of debt. We have been operating where for most of the last 10 years, debt service takes up roughly 50%, sometimes more than 50% of the entire budget, interest and paying back debt and so on. We need to ease that burden so that there's more of the budget which is left to be able to afford the basic necessities of government and the people of Jamaica.
So this pain is for a later gain.
Yes, well, I mean, and there are different time horizons that as far as that is concerned, you're not going to have instant gratification, that you have to make sacrifice now for the benefit in the future. In other words, yes,
with the program.
We have to stick with the program.
The Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Mr. Colin Bullock, talking to us about economy, trends in the economy, and things that are actually taking place, which are demonstrating the positive effects of the government's economic reform program. We take a break, but we'll be right back.
A healthy and educated people living in a clean, natural environment, reducing crime, improving the justice system and governance, building a prosperous economy. It's not just a vision, it's reality. Learn about the plan. Join the vision.
My country Jamaica has a rich heritage and is very unique. If we all pull together, we can make it the place of choice to live, work, raise family, and to do business.
For more information on Vision 2030, call the Planning Institute of Jamaica or visit vision2030.gov.jm, your parish library, school library, or the Jamaica Information Service.
Welcome back to Issues and Answers. We are speaking to the Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Mr. Colin Bullock. The government, despite the tight fiscal situation, is maintaining a commitment to the social sector. I think there's a floor of spending that the government has established to show its commitment to the sector.
There is a social protection floor. I mean, that you try to maintain the benefits through PATH.
Yes.
But
community renewal program that your agency manages.
Right. That's what I mean. That you want to go beyond just that social safety net to a concept of empowerment of people.
Okay.
I mean, we're not just providing welfare. So even with PATH, there is the articulation of a graduation strategy. We're looking at how can you graduate families from reliance on PATH, putting them in a position where they can actually support themselves without that type of assistance. And generally, in terms of, you mentioned the community renewal program, that a part of our perspective on growth and transformation is that social transformation is as essential to economic growth as economic growth is to social transformation. The historical approach was that economic growth have growth and it's going to trickle down and it's going to help poor people and so on. It hasn't worked, and I think that a large part of our failure to sustain economic growth in Jamaica over the last 40 years is our failure to effectively transform the way in which people live. The educational facilities available to people, the health facilities available to people, the housing, sanitation issues, literacy, all of those issues.
So you're seeing these things as not subsidiary to economic growth?
It is integral. It's integral to the growth program. It's integral to that. Is essential that you won't be able to sustain growth unless you can actually effect that type of social transformation. We always say, I mean, it's almost a cliche now that our most important resource is our people. Yeah. But if the people are under-resourced and underfed and undernourished and undereducated, they're not going to be able to contribute much to your growth process. And in that context, you also get the social problems which cost money. I mean, the crime, the violence, the security problems, teenage pregnancies, gangs and all of that, that you have to deal with those social problems directly.
So it's an integrated development strategy?
Yes, that there's a symbiosis between the concrete and steel going in the ground and the social conditions in which people live. The two things actually go together in terms of creating the capacity for sustainable economic growth.
Yes. The dollar is a concern to many people,
yes.
Mr. Bullock, appreciation of the dollar.
Right.
What would you say to those persons? What are your thoughts on the exchange rate and people's angst over it?
Well, ultimately, there's sometimes a conflict between competitiveness and stability.
Yes.
The market can stabilize. It doesn't necessarily mean that the way it stabilizes is a competitive exchange rate.
Yes.
Nor does a competitive exchange rate indicate where the market will stabilize. It doesn't indicate that.
So you're saying we can't artificially fix the exchange rate. It hasn't worked in the past.
I certainly would not recommend that. I mean that, and Jamaica doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. We have the experiences. I mean that long period from the late 1970s into the late 1980s, ending in the auction system, exchange control. Only $50 to leave the country. Have to be stamped in your passport. People searching at the airport, and of course, I mean, how a lot of my fellow citizens became de facto criminals because I mean people had to find ways of buying foreign exchange and getting foreign exchange out of the country and so on. Black market which starves the official system and so on. So if anybody fixes the exchange rate, they have to fix it in a context where they can guarantee that the official system is going to be able to supply people all the foreign exchange they want when they want it at that official exchange rate. If you don't do that, you're going to have the same problems going from the late 1970s back into the late 1980s. Right? So it's not a panacea.
As we conclude, your prognosis for the future. How do you feel about the Jamaican economy? How do you feel about the future of the Jamaican economy?
I feel that the prospects are positive. I mean, we expect stronger growth in the next year. I mean, some of the same sectors, construction, agriculture, mining, I mean, should be okay. Hotels and restaurants and so on should be okay. What is important is that we spoke about the social reform, but the sort of doing business reforms are important. That we have to alter the conditions under which the private sector operates. We need to make it more conducive to private sector investment. So all of those reforms, collateral, the tax incentive system and so on, we have to accelerate those reforms. We have to accelerate, I mean, the implementation of the major projects which have been spoken about. We have to get those things in the ground as quickly as possible. The energy solution is important. I mean, we have to move on that, and the security issues and so on we have to address, because it's not just the threat to persons, but it's also a cost to business in terms of protecting property and so on. So those things we have to, the opportunities are there, but we have to move more quickly in terms of resolving those problems to facilitate the doing of business in the situation.
Thanks very much for your thoughts, Mr. Colin Bullock, the Director General of the Planet Institute of Jamaica, speaking to us about the economy. Next week, I'll be back. Until then, Ian Bourne wishing you a pleasant day.
Every day, my father. Every day I respect you more and more. Every duty vehicle on the road or the bridge. Listen the message. No overload. Operator, haulage contractor, a trailer driver. No overload. Truck overload destroys our roads. I want to say, check your speed, check your state, make sure you're not overweight. Take the time to make it safe, even if you're little late. Some of the road, they leany, sinky, twisty. Truck overload destroys our roads. So drive a heavy duty vehicle on the road or the bridge. Listen the message.
A message from the Island Traffic Authority and the National Road Maintenance Fund.
How much do you know about tires? Well, if you're a motorist, there are some basic facts you should know, especially because there's an important link between the condition of your tires and safety on the roads. As we continue to push the road safety message, here's a timely reminder.
Whether bicycle, bike, car, truck, tractor, trailer, or even an airplane, one thing is common. The sole contact established with the road surface is through the tires. And the condition of that one entity could mean the difference between a smooth ride and...
Never buy a defective tire. Always check the tire to see that if you see any bumps, any scratches, any scrapes, anything that would look as if the tire has been compromised. Also, ensure that you follow the labeling guidelines. If the tread is worn past the level of the indicator, you should change your tires. It is now time to buy a new tire. Also, you need to check on the manufacture date to see that when the tire was manufactured, so you know that you stay within a 6-year period of when you would purchase your tires. Never purchase tires that are not for your vehicle. So you want to purchase a tire that is too big for your vehicle or too small for a vehicle.
Persons can get the correct tire size and air pressure information from their motor vehicle manual or the driver door lock-in panel located at the base of the opening of the driver door.
Ensure that your car is properly aligned and that your tires are balanced so that you will allow for even wear and proper steering.
You balance the tire so that the tire runs smooth. Without balancing, the tire tends to vibrate at different speed and the tire doesn't roll over smoothly. Alignment is very critical because you want your tire to track. Right? Some you find a tire pull into one side, your vehicle pull into one side because of lack of alignment. You can find a tire riding up because your front end parts, especially your shocks, are maybe not in order. So it is critical to align the vehicle so you get maximum wear out of your tire.
This is my appeal, Jamaica, give blood for it.
Give blood and give the gift of life. So safe you don't have to think twice. Do what you can for one another.
Yeah, man.
Be a hero, be a blood donor.
Yeah, me people, watch it. Give blood for your sister and your brother, save the life of another. You might never know. Give blood, cause you want a life you love. Many people want blood. The Father says so. One sign up today, be a blood donor. Many people, one blood.
55,000. That's the number of units of blood needed to satisfy demand in Jamaica every year. 66. That's the number of years the National Blood Transfusion Service has been managing blood collection in Jamaica. The final number for you? 10. The number of minutes it takes to donate a unit of blood. Yesterday was World Blood Donor Day. The day may be gone, but we're encouraging you to make a plan to give blood this week.
From expansion to modernization, the National Blood Transfusion Service, the NBTS in Kingston, has undergone several changes to improve its service to the country and keep pace with global standards. Through the initial support of voluntary committees, blood collection centers now operate in hospitals across the country.
And there are 9 such centers between Westmoreland and Port Antonio. All these centers are tasked with collecting units from donors. These units go to one of 3 centers across the island. Here, the headquarters at Slipen Road or Cornwall Regional Hospital or University Hospital, where they are separated into components.
After blood comes from the donor room, 3 samples taken along with it are used to determine the blood group of the unit and also to exclude any unusual antibodies or transfusion transmissible infections. In the meantime, the unit collected is separated into components and safety confirmation checked.
Then we actually dispatch the units to the respective hospitals that need blood.
And those needs are often urgent.
It was scary. I was pregnant and actually ended up in the hospital. This just seemed like the end for me because if I need blood and there's none, how am I going to live? And this is why it's important for people to really have a continuous donation of blood.
The blood bank collects an average of 30,000 units per year. The plan is to increase that amount to meet the estimated 45,000 to 55,000 units in demand every year. In support of that mission, the Ministry of Health is currently rolling out a major modernization program. The aim is to achieve 3 main goals.
1, to increase the supply of blood. 2, to increase the appropriate usage of the blood. And 3, to decrease the wastage of blood.
In advancing its multi-pronged approach to modernization, a number of documents were developed with the help of the Pan American Health Organization. These include transfusion guidelines, a 5-year strategic plan of operation for 2013 to 2017, and the Caribbean Regional Standard.
We at the National Blood Transfusion Service are confident that with the new guidelines, a robust mobile system, and good marketing, we can in fact meet the needs of the country.
But meeting those needs will depend on every Jamaican.
I have been giving blood for over 5 years now. It is healthy to give blood, and everyone should donate blood.
I've been a blood donor since 2004. Ever since I started, it became a competition between my mother and myself.
And it's a good feeling to think that you're really helping.
Helping to keep family members, neighbors, co-workers and classmates alive. The National Blood Transfusion Service continues to build on a foundation of service, encouraging voluntary blood donation, providing the lifeblood of a people.
Fathers are important, very important. Every bit of research we have says they are, but you don't have to look to research findings to know that. Just look around in your community. Single mothers do an awesome job, and they should be applauded for that. But homes with missing fathers often don't do as well as the ones where dad is present and playing his role. So today, we want to encourage fathers to be and do what your children need. Be their protector, provider, counselor, and a living example. Be patient, kind, and gentle. Love them unconditionally, and most of all, be present. If you need help or advice, contact the National Parenting Support Commission at 967-1758 or email nationalparentingsupport@moey.gov.jm. Finally, for those fathers who get up to change diapers at night, pick up the children from school, check homework every night, sit on the PTA, for the fathers who never miss a school function and never forget a birthday, we salute you.
And with that profound word, we take our leave. Hope you were informed and encouraged. Jamaica Magazine returns tomorrow on this station. Until then, take a look at our offerings on the web. Remember to walk, ride, and drive safely on our roads. And don't forget to make a plan to donate blood. The life you save could be your own. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Bless you.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.